Ladies and gentlemen, everything I've been saying since 2016, when I was published not only in the Huffington Post, but in the Daily Caller talking about the Clinton email probe, and then the Federalist talking about the Durham Probe, everything that I've been saying, people are now finally realizing. I have always stated since day one, the Democratic Party literally actually purchased a myth. They actually purchased a myth with money. How on earth do you fail a DNA test like Elizabeth Warren, but how on earth do you purchase an actual bogus, completely irrational hoax, myth, fantasy? They had nothing on Trump, so they needed a Steele dossier. They needed Comey's memos. They needed to create this Alpha Bank story. And now, if you type in Madam Secretary Hillary Clinton in Google, you will see, they're very bizarre. This is one Vanity Fair article. I mean, every article is admitting that, but then you'll never believe it. Hillary Clinton did not, in fact, spy on Trump's White House. Actually, the opposite is true. The opposite is true. What? This is very bizarre. According to the filing, Sussman had gotten information from technology executive, whose company had performed server-related work for the White House. In Durham's estimation, and his colleagues, quote, had exploited this arrangement by mining certain records for the purpose of gathering derogatory information about Donald Trump. Fox News took the line from Durham's filing and ran with it. Yeah, of course they ran with it. Because you had Clinton literally hiring people for the purpose of surveillance within Trump's White House. And so it's like impossible. It's impossible for liberal Democrats to even admit. So they actually admit that Clinton did. This is hilarious. Strangely, there was a lot of fact check. Reportedly, Durham never once said anything about the White House being infiltrated. The White House, in addition to his campaign, was under surveillance by people Clinton hired. Now, this Sussman was indicted. Michael Sussman was indicted for lying to the FBI. But here we have Wall Street Journal, Hillary Clinton's other dossier, NBC News, tech executive used access to White House computers to look for dirt on Trump, says special counsel. This is pretty unbelievable because you still have this inability to believe. So if you type in the Durham Probe, you get a little bit more accurate. Tech executive one says allegations tying Trump to Russia shared with Central Intelligence. So what? Who cares? XDNI. You had John Brennan, who was actively spreading the Steele dossier, which was purchased. So they purchased a dossier against Trump. They hired people to engage in surveillance of Trump's campaign and the Oval Office. They couldn't find anything to indict or charge or arrest Trump on. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment. The stock market is up, which is hilarious because there's news that Russia pulled back some of its military, which is almost certainly a ploy, if it even happened, to get Western media into in some kind of euphoric state to think that there's not going to be a terrible, terrible tragedy. Unfortunately, Putin and Russia are almost certainly going to invade or engage in some type of military, operation. So this is yet again the stock market and media believing something that doesn't exist. The stock market is going to crash. We are seeing a slow motion crash before us. Inflation is at 7.5% and skyrocketing upwards. This is happening while liberal Democrats are running everything. In the House, the Senate, and the executive. Mashed potato brains is presiding over not only an economic catastrophe, we have inflation at a 40-year high, and it's only going up. You have 5 to 7 interest rate hikes this year, which is going to absolutely obliterate the stock market. 5 to 7 interest rate hikes, a 50 basis point hike potentially in March. You have oil approaching $100 per barrel. It'll very likely go past the all-time high of around $147 per barrel. Then you have consumer sentiment at a decades low. Supply chain breakdowns are still an issue. And labor shortages in key industries, still an issue. We still have $1 trillion in margin debt. We have around twice the margin debt we had in March of 2020 when the market went down to below 20,000. When the Dow Jones went down to below 20,000, we have twice as much margin debt. And we have a problem with derivatives contracts purchased on margin, like the Archegos hedge fund that went under, that got a $30 billion margin call that AOC and Bernie Sanders and especially Elizabeth Warren aren't even addressing. So here we have, hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment. If you want to support my work, my Patreon is below. To my new Patreons, thank you. I'll have a live stream tonight at around 8:30, 8:45 Pacific time. We had an amazing live stream last night. It's always awesome. And here you have all of these, Fox News exaggerates about how on earth do they spin this as okay? The network has pushed over the top misleading claims. No, it's not misleading. Falsely, it did show. It absolutely did show that they spied on Trump's White House. This is hilarious. So let's see how they rationalize this. The Daily Beast. Durham, who was assigned then Attorney General, added a pleading on Friday to his case against Michael Sussman, a lawyer with ties with Democratic ties. No, a lawyer working for Clinton, not a lawyer with Democratic ties. The special counsel has accused Sussman of lying during a September 2016 meeting with the FBI over Trump's potential Russia links. No, there were no links. He knew there were no links, and so did the FBI, but they still investigated him. While Durham's filing was essentially about a possible conflict of interest, the prosecutor also slipped in a few extra sentences that set off okay. The prosecutor also recounted a February 2017 meeting between Sussman and Central Intelligence about seemingly strange cyber data suggesting the presence of Russian-made smartphones at Trump Tower and the White House. Durham also noted that Sussman had obtained this data from his client, Rodney Jaffe, whose tech company, Newstar, serviced internet servers at the White House, alleging that Jaffe and associates exploited this arrangement to gather dirt on Trump. How on earth is that not spying on Trump? How on earth? If the reverse were true, and it was President Obama or mashed potato brains Biden, how on earth would they be okay with Trump hiring an attorney who then hiring to a tech firm and the executive at the tech firm to give information about Biden's White House to the Central Intelligence Agency? How on earth do they spin this? They can't. The left can't, or Democrats cannot possibly admit that everything they accused Trump of was completely fabricated. They found nothing. As Savage reported on Fox News, skewed Durham's filing. For one, despite what countless on-air segments and reporting claim, the special counsel never once used the word infiltrate. So what? What does that mean? There was a tech company gathering information in the Oval Office, and just because they had a pre-existing contract, that's completely irrelevant because they were directly doing Clinton's dirty work. So it's like unbelievable. With Trump, the mere insinuation or inference or any baseless claim is grounds. A book, like Maggie Haberman has a book where he's flushing records down the toilet, and that is an actual story that happened. Here they get caught red-handed, and nobody from the Daily Beast to Vanity Fair to Esquire, nobody can actually admit that, yes, the Oval Office, White House, the Trump Tower, he was under surveillance by people who worked for Clinton's campaign. End of story. They admit that, but they don't, for some reason, they don't say, well, he didn't use the word infiltrate, Durham. Yeah, but he explained exactly what took place. Hit subscribe to this. It did not claim... Additionally, Durham did not claim in the pleading that tech firm was ever paid by Clinton. It doesn't matter if they were paid by Clinton. Sussman was paid by Clinton. And they were helping the Clinton campaign for whatever reason, whether they were paid or whether they aligned. Well, no, they were paid either by Sussman, or they were hired for the specific purpose of gathering information. They're part of the indictment. So they're directly related to the Clinton campaign. And if that was so important, the Steele dossier was literally purchased by Clinton and the DNC. This is so amusing. You learn more about what happened in the Durham Probe from left-leaning publications trying desperately to spin it. So anyway, give me your thoughts below. This is hilarious. The indictment, which I have been reading with you in the live streams, states that a tech company, people who worked for the tech company, a lawyer for the Democratic Party, created a false narrative which was not true. It was categorically false. Trump did not, and he should have never been accused, but he did not communicate with the Kremlin through a server. That possibly was Democrats with private servers for 4 years. But he did not, and Uranium One donations. Trump did not communicate with a server through a server to the Kremlin. The FBI says that they were duped by Sussman. So now you have all of it. They're looking at themselves in the mirror, and they can't possibly realize that they've created this entire myth. They purchased an entire myth, and it's coming crashing down. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. Be here tonight at around 8:30, 8:45 Pacific for the live stream. Thank you.